Welcome to the Skill Ranch. This podcast is designed to equip entrepreneurs, professionals, and consultants with skills to impact tomorrow's work environment. Now here's your host, Bilal.
Hi everyone and welcome to the SkillRanch Podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by Omer, who is a mindset and success coach who is on a mission to unlock the true potential of our minds and empower each of us to create a positive impact in this world. As a mindset and success coach, Omer works with entrepreneurs, young professionals, mid-career professionals to help them master the art of learning and how to learn by building their foundation non-cognitive skills. He has successfully impacted over 100 plus individuals to discover their life's purpose and find a fulfilling career in and outside of entrepreneurship. Welcome to the Skill Ranch podcast. How are you doing today, Omar?
Bilal, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for bringing me, and I'm doing fantastic, and I hope that's the same for you.
No, it's pleasure having you today on the episode. Like initially when we connected around and learned more about non-cognitive skills, I thought it was very important to bring you on the episode and share that knowledge with the community. And I really appreciate that you agreed to be a part of the show.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for thinking me of worthy to be on the show.
And so for the audience here, share your story as an educator and as a coach and the impact that you have created in the lives of so many individuals.
Sure. It's when you ask me about my story, sometimes I always start thinking like, where do I even begin? Couple of years ago, Bilal, circumstances led me to a very introspective journey where I started asking myself very, very deep questions about what is the purpose of my life. And I won't honestly get into the whole details of what exactly I did on that journey, because I think that can be a whole episode altogether. But honestly, the outcome of that introspective journey was this self-awakening moment where I realized that in order to feel content and peaceful in my deathbed, I have to give back to this world, to this community, just the way this world has given so much to me in the form of education, mentorship, and coaching. And that day, I made 3 promises to myself. The first one being, I'm just going to go out and teach, teach, and teach. Whether I get paid for it or not, I'm just going to teach. The second promise I made to myself was I'm going to learn, because if I want to be a great educator, a great coach, I need to put on my learning hat. And I started enrolling myself into various different courses online and in classroom, and started reading a lot more books to develop my skills and expand my mental bandwidth. And the third thing I did, Bilal, was started networking left, right, and center. I started talking to and started networking with one new individual every single day. And then I haven't broken that promise till date. So every day I meet at least one new person and have a Zoom call now in the COVID days with that person. Because I believe that when I get to rub shoulders with more awakened and more experienced people, especially especially people like yourself as well, it really allows me to expand my perspective and my mental bandwidth. And as they say, your network is always your net worth, right? So those 3 things together, the teaching, the learning, the networking, they all integrated in a very powerful way that led me to a realization later on about the missing link between academic success and real life success. And that was that most of our institutions, right, most of our schools, universities, institutions are really designed to help us learn what to learn, which is, you can learn things in math, science, English, history, geography, etc. But what these institutions are not really well designed to do is they don't do a good job of teaching us how to learn. And learning how to learn is one of the most important skills for the 21st century economy, in my opinion. And that's how, honestly, the journey really started. As I started digging deeper and deeper into learning how to learn, I realized that in order to become better learners, we must develop two things. Number one, a robust understanding of the supercomputer between our ears, which is the brain, number one. And number two, we need to develop strong set of non-cognitive skills that lay the foundation for all types of cognitive learning, which is why now I'm working on three very interconnected projects. The first one is continuously learning and teaching how to learn, which is, and that involves developing tools and techniques to teach people about the brain and about building non-cognitive skills. The second project that I'm working on is the research on success and greatness. This is where I'm studying the lives of all-time greats, such as Einstein, Da Vinci, Martha Graham, Temple Grandin, and I'm seeing whether there is a blueprint for success that we can learn from their lives, and as well as I'm also interviewing, like how you are interviewing current world successful people from all different facets of life. So I've had the pleasure and privilege to interview international sports athletes, a lot of CEOs in Canada, top coaches around the world, as well as entrepreneurs around the world, and to understand from their perspective what is their secret sauce for success. And the third project that I'm working on is basically utilizing those two pieces of research to give back, to teach, and to coach the young professionals, the young entrepreneurs, the mid-career professionals. Because as they say, the fastest way to learn something is to teach, because when you teach someone something, you get to learn it twice. So that's, in a nutshell, the journey so far.
No, that's a very impressive journey. And I would like to come back to your initial points that you share, that we need to learn ourselves, we need to make ourselves competent, and only then we can add value to others. And once we are in that phase, we are capable enough to add value to others, we want to do it, then networking plays an important part. But once
Absolutely.
we encompass all of these three things, we are trying to lead ourselves. And when we want to lead ourselves, when we have developed the growth oriented mindset,
Mm-hmm.
the part you made about brain is very important. I mean, anyone who is doing anything in the world is leading themselves. Is that the right path for them or not? That comes from awareness. That
Correct.
comes from the environment you have around you. And if that environment is not positive, not conducive to growth, I mean, you might be growing in that environment, but not to the extent you have your potential in it. And those are directly related to the non-cognitive skills. And before
Absolutely.
we go into that discussion around non-cognitive skills, for the audience, share what are non-cognitive skills, and in your opinion, is it, for a simpler layman term, is it okay to call them soft skills too?
Sure, absolutely. Sometimes we can refer to them as non-cognitive skills, soft skills. But to define non-cognitive skills, Bilal, non-cognitive skills are those intangible, those invisible, and those non-measurable skills that truly lay the foundation for all types of cognitive learning. When we talk about cognitive skills, um, things like analytical thinking, or reading or writing, things that you can read, things that you can measure, things that you can see, things that are tangible, are those skills that are cognitive. And the opposite of that are the non-cognitive ones. Those are the invisible, the intangible, and the non-measurable ones. Researchers, I've been doing my research, and I've been looking at the research of various different scholars and psychologists, and various different coaches as well. And one thing I've realized is that one way or the other, they all somehow speak volumes about building these non-cognitive skills. And based on my research, my thesis is around, if you as an individual, if you are able to embed the following 9 non-cognitive skills in your DNA, you allow yourself as a sports person, or as a student, or as an entrepreneur, or even as a parent, to become a better version of yourself. And these 9 non-cognitive skills are these: number one, self-awareness, right? Number two, growth mindset. Number three is grit. Number four is self-control. Number five is optimism. Number six is gratitude. Number seven is empathy. Number eight is zest, which is enthusiasm. And number nine, definitely not the least, is curiosity. And this is not in any order of priority, by the way. This is all equally important. So if you have self-awareness, if you have a growth mindset, if you have the curiosity and the grit, you are really empowering yourself to unleash the best version of yourself. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to learn myself and then teach others how to increase your self-awareness levels, how to become grittier, how to become how to practice more gratitude, and so on and so forth.
It's a very interesting list. And I mean, you told that this is not in any order, but curiosity is something that is a good skill uh, to move somewhere on the top part for an individual. That if you're not curious enough, you won't go on exploring into an area. And if you
Absolutely.
explore, some of the opportunities, some of the doors might not even be discovered by you at any time. So if I would ask you to create to the story that you shared initially, if you were to link these nine skills, how has Umar become the person he is today, utilizing those nine skills? Like if you would like to share like one thought around each one of them.
Sure. Bilal, honestly, I think more each and every one of us are on a journey. There's no such thing as I have become a growth mindset person today, right? There's no end goal. And that's why these are the non-cognitive skill. That's why they're non-measurable, right? You can't really measure these. You can't measure how optimistic one person is compared to the other. You can't measure what kind of a mindset one person has to the other. Sure, there are some tools that have been created by different researchers, but they're not tangible enough, right? So I think it would be more valuable in instead of sharing just my own personal story and how I'm trying to learn about these. I think perhaps, if you may, I can definitely share a story of a client of mine, which I think was incredible, the way he changed himself. Is that okay if I share the story of a client?
Sure, feel free to share. Would love to learn more about that.
Absolutely. So I um, I had a client. He was a young boy in I would say in his mid 20s to late 20s, and to put it really mildly, he was not doing great. He had anger issues. He felt socially excluded. He was uh, he was not able to find a good job in his field, which was tech related. And from what he told me, he would just spend many hours sitting in front of TV and watching Netflix and playing PlayStation. His parents were really worried about him, and they were not particularly happy with him either. So when him and we got into our coaching engagement, as a coach, I obviously we him and we spent some time to understand each other. And I think as a coach, it's really important to understand the why, right? Why was this person having anger issues? Why was he not spending time productively to write his resume, apply for jobs, and instead choosing to watch television and keep playing PlayStation? And honestly, it took us quite some time to build that understanding, to build the trust. And once we had established the trust and that understanding, though, that's when we then started very delicately and iteratively to redesign his daily routines to instill in him winning habits. And what do I mean by that? Now, a few examples of the winning habits or atomic habits that we started instilling in this young boy were the habits of practicing gratitude by daily journaling, daily gratitude journaling. There's a fantastic guided journal out there which I highly recommend for everyone. It's called the 5 minute gratitude journal by Intelligent Change. It's fantastic. It allows you to practice gratitude on a daily basis. The second thing we did in his to develop his habit of reading is I assigned him 15 minutes every day to read a particular book, right, of his choice. Then even something very, very crazy but simple as brushing his teeth with his opposite hand. Now, sometimes somebody may wonder why that is the case. How does that even matter? And to me, it's all about training your brain to do the things that are not automatic to you, right? When we brush our teeth, for example, with our normal hand, for me, that's my right hand, it comes very naturally to me. I don't have to think about it. These are the tasks that my brain does automatically without any effort. But when I choose to use a different hand, the opposite hand, what I'm really doing is I'm actually training my brain to do something difficult first thing in the morning, right? And that sets us up for some sort of a momentum, which Tony Robbins talks about as it's the winning momentum. Once you start doing things, when you start your day by by doing something difficult or something that's not a part of your automaticity, that's when you start building that winning momentum for the rest of the day. And another thing that we did was take 1 minute of cold showers. Why? Because again, you're training your brain, your body to do something really, really challenging and difficult. Cold showers first thing in the morning are not pleasant. I'll be honest about that. I don't know if for those of you who have never tried it, try it out. But the reason why we did this is because, again, it builds a non-cognitive skill, which is resilience. You're training your body to do things that are resilient. Because what happened later on with him was that he was able to transfer those skills and those experiences from cold showers to brushing the teeth with opposite hand and say, if I'm able to do these simple things which are a little bit more higher degree of difficulty and challenging for me, I can transfer that thing into other areas of my life. I can choose to now work on my resume. Yes, it's difficult, but if I can take a cold shower, I can do this as well. So these simple habits, these atomic habits, allowed him and allowed him to trickle those feelings and those skills, those non-cognitive skills, into other areas of his life, from his career to his relationships. And we also did a lot of bigger exercises, right, where we designed a journal for him to journal his emotions. He had anger issues, right? So we spoke about, all right, you should journal your emotions. In order to find more clarity for his life, we said we will write an eulogy, right? We asked him to write a eulogy. And last but definitely not the least, when it came to his career, we focused heavily on creating his digital persona on the web by optimizing his LinkedIn, by creating a personal website. And I kid you not, Bilal, I kid you not, just 2 weeks ago, this young fella, he eventually finally found a job in his field. Yes, he found a job despite the COVID happening, despite the economic downturn, right? And honestly, I'm not sharing this story to impress you or the listeners. I'm simply sharing this to express the fact that what is possible. Because once we realize that the tremendous amount of power and potential we have right here in our brains, and if we find a coach or a mentor to work alongside with us, together we can build these atomic habits that can create a compounding effect over time to bring you the success that you desire for your life.
That's a very inspirational story. And during our conversation, I thought of something that yes, non-cognitive skills are difficult to measure. They are not
Hmm.
tangible, but I feel somehow internally I can realize whether I'm more aware today than yesterday. If I
Hmm.
have a better mindset compared to yesterday and compared to 6 months ago. So there are few things or about like, am I resilient now? Am I empathic anymore? So those kind of things you might not be able to tell the world where you are. Not, neither somebody outside who is seeing that those things, they can't see how much you have developed. But that inner change
Right.
is what truly develops within ourselves, and that leads to success.
So
And
true.
about myself, like if somebody would still see me like 10 years ago, they would not believe that I can do a podcast or I can go and deliver speeches. Like I was the go-to person for giving presentation in my university or the residency program I did.
Hmm.
Maybe I like that a lot. Like compared to a report, compared to other things, if you
Yeah,
would ask me like Bilal, can you go and deliver this presentation? I would more than happy to do it. But that was not the person I was. I'm still an introvert, but I can give exceptionally good presentations. But am I the best one? No, no, not even nearby. Like that is where the growth mindset sits in that yes, I'm better than yesterday. I'm way better than 5 years ago, but I can be even better 5 years down the road. And for that, I need to work on it, put in the efforts, and that will show me the results 5 years down the road. And that's a good
absolutely.
visionary target. But what I liked in your example, it is relating positive habit. For someone, it might just be like playing video games. So they like crossed a difficult level. That's a success.
Hmm.
Understand that success and relate that success to something different in your life. And yesterday I saw an article. I need to see and compare the research to see the authenticity of that article. But
Tell
it
me.
shows that if you are playing video games and you're trying to have that passion of success, it can make you more resilient. It can
Interesting.
that quality inside you. So I still need to see it's fresh. But that is great relationship you made, like taking a cold shower
Yeah,
or doing a tough habit upfront that sets you positively throughout the day.
yeah.
But in certain scenarios, and I saw on your profile, do you work with people who are from like underprivileged backgrounds who might not have access to those resources that many people around the globe might have? How can we develop resilience and be in a positive mindset during that scenario? What are some of your thoughts around that?
Um, I definitely have had the privilege last year to run a youth leadership program,
Mhm.
Bilal, in partnership with a local charity organization and a not-for-profit, where they brought me in and they wanted somebody to lead the content design and the development for a youth leadership program, and they knew a little bit about the research that I was doing on building non-cognitive skills, and this was a great playground for me to exercise and put into practice what I was researching and make it more practical and more tangible. And that's what I was able to do successfully, I think, which was take that research, right, and create workshops, hands-on workshops for these. Almost we had almost 30 kids from they were some of them were refugees, newly inducted refugees in Canada, from low income communities, and give them those tools and the techniques to build those non-cognitive skills. So what we did in those workshops as part of that leadership development program, all there were 12 workshops in total in a span of 10 months, and all these workshops, Bilal, were focused on building non-cognitive skills. We started off with self-awareness because to me, self-awareness is paramount. That's the foundation of the foundational skills, right? To me, it's so important for you to understand who you are before you go out and start seeking knowledge from the external world. See who you are, what are your strengths, and that's what we did. We started inculcating these kids with about the importance of self-awareness, why self-awareness is important. The entire month we kept talking about, we did multiple different exercises. One of the exercises I spoke to you about was the eulogy, right? And sure, it can be a very dark exercise, um, but it allows you to picture yourself in your deathbed, project yourself in that, and then reflect back on your life. And it allows you to then visualize what are your life priorities, right? What are your life priorities, and then realize what do you need to do, what actions you need to take in order to do to achieve those dreams and achieve those desires before you, of course, before you die. um, that's just one example of a simple exercise that I think anybody from any, whether you are coming from a low income or a high income community, or you all can do. Then I think the other thing anybody can do in order to gain those non-cognitive skills is to educate themselves about these skills. There are tons and tons of books out there. Library, especially in here, where we live in Canada, access to public library is so easy now, right? You can go to a library, pick up a book, or now you can even listen to podcasts on YouTube. They can listen to your podcast, they can listen to my video cast on YouTube, where we bring in different guests from different areas of life, and they can tell us more about these skills and how to develop these skills, because I think educating yourself is the first step to making that progress, right? So that's what we did last year in the last year's program, when for the youth leadership program. From We had specific workshops for specific skills, from self-awareness to building a growth mindset, to storytelling, and even some cognitive skills such as computer programming and financial literacy.
So those are good tips to develop those skills. I kind of found one more thing, which is consistency,
Mm-hmm.
and this is key to your success. That, I mean, don't be too passionate on a single day and then
Yeah,
the next day never comes. So consistency matters. Doing like something for 15 days over a year is far better of doing something 18 hours try 2 times a year.
absolutely.
And bring that kind of a value. So that consistent, that is where, like, whether I'm working on my training and coaching on podcast, I'm trying to manage expectation that this is the amount of work I can do, irrespective of whatever load comes to on my like weekdays or the weekend. This is something that I can manage throughout the year, and which
Right.
enabled me to really progress my podcast and training and coaching over the last year. Others
Absolutely.
Other skill or other tip that I found would be integrity,
Okay.
and that would be integrity towards ourselves. Like, we should be like honest towards others and in our dealings with the public, but be honest. I mean, how good am I at this particular skill? And maybe at the back end, it will somehow relate to self-awareness as well. Like, where I am today, what I am on a particular skill set, and what step do I need to take to reach to that next level. And it will be 101% different than your level, Umar. Maybe our public speaking skills might be like a perfect match, but to go to the next level, it would be a different journey for me compared
Hmm.
to different journey for you. So, like, be honest to yourself, understand yourself totally, and then create a plan for you and that you can follow.
I love that. I really love that, because it kind of encapsulates the essence of not just self awareness, but I think also growth mindset. Because a big portion of having a growth mindset is taking criticism constructively. And you're just talking about being honest in criticizing and being constructive in evaluating your own self. So it's not just taking feedback from another person, it's you giving your own self honest feedback. And I think that's, Bilal, that's so well said. And I think a lot of us sometimes are guilty of overestimating and being lenient when it comes to giving self critique, right? And I think that's where a growth mindset can help. And if you're not that good at it, and it's okay, sometimes that's where sometimes you need a coach, a mentor to come in and address those blind spots. Because let's just be honest, the best of the best in the world have coaches in the world, right? Why do they have it? Because sure, they, even though they are the best at it, they always, we as humans, we always have some sort of blind spots. And this is the job of a coach. This is where a coach can come in and they can address those blind spots. They can give you that honest feedback that sometimes it's so difficult for you to give to your own self.
Yeah, Umar, like, you're talking about coaching. Why not share with the audience about your coaching expertise and what kind of individuals you work with within your business?
Absolutely. Um, for me, I think when I started off, it was strictly for career coaching. But I feel now I have expanded my own horizons. And again, touch wood, thanks to God for giving me that capability and the privilege to be able to dive into different areas as well, from life coaching to coaching entrepreneurs, young professionals, as well as mid-career professionals, helping them not just find better jobs, but also become healthier, wiser, more successful in their careers, as well as more successful from their health aspect. So those are this to me, because at the end of the day, your life is not just about your career. People initially always approach me for, hey, Omer, can you help me get a job? I'm stuck in so and so career, or I'm just a fresh graduate. I need a job. And once they start working with me, they realize that life is not just about the career piece. Life is so much more, right? Life has the component of health. Life has the component of investments. Life has the component of relationships. And that's where I think, again, going down the path of non-cognitive skills, this is where I then start inculcating in them those non-cognitive skills, and I start teaching them and educating them about what those non-cognitive skills are and how you can build these skills to become lifelong learners and become successful in every area of your life. If you may, um, I want to also share with you and the audience why these non-cognitive skills are so important in becoming lifelong learners. I think that's very important because that is a huge piece of the work and the research that I do. So if you may, can I take a few minutes to dive into the brain science of non-cognitive skills?
Sure, Umar. Feel
All
free.
right. So the first thing I want to talk about, Bilal, is the fact that there's a lot of research on that proves that our brains are malleable, correct? Now, the brain growth is actually at its peak between the ages of 0 to 6. And this is the age where a lot of new neurons and neural networks are being formed in the brain for various skills, from language to problem solving to self-control and many, many more, right? The prefrontal cortex part of our brain, which is over here, somewhere over here in the front side of our skull. Prefrontal cortex is responsible for the analytic and the rational thinking, right? This is the part of the brain that gets activated when we start learning something new. Then there's the other part of the brain, which is called the limbic system. Limbic system contains the amygdala, which controls our feelings, our emotions, our desires. And this is the part of the brain, that is usually depicted in cartoons and comics as the heart. And I think all of us can testify to the daily battles we have between the heart and the brain, which is actually the prefrontal cortex and the limbic part of the limbic system. And this is when we are like, should I watch another episode of Friends, or should I pick up a book and read a book a little bit, or should I pick up the dumbbells and do a few exercises, or just have another bite of the chocolate cake that's sitting in my fridge, right? Those are the daily dilemmas that every human being is going through. It's so natural. It's whether you look at Jeff Bezos or you look at a regular human being like you and I, we all have those same problems at the end of the day. So for me, this is where the difference comes in. When you face these dilemmas, these daily dilemmas, I look at these daily dilemmas as an opportunity for me to train my brain, to build these winning habits. These are the opportunity to exercise self-control, which is an example of a non-cognitive skill. Now, definitely don't get me wrong. When I talk about the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex, amygdala or the limbic system is definitely not the villain here, right? In fact, this part of our brain is responsible for our emotions, for our desires, and it is what makes life worthy, worthy of living, right? But it is also the part of our brain which helps us make those gut feeling decisions. Now, here's the challenge though. When we start making too many decisions based on our emotions and impulsiveness, that can be very hazardous for our health, for our wealth and our overall well-being. If I say yes to a shopping spree on a daily basis, or if I say yes to indulging in chocolate cookies every single day, I am not honestly doing any favor to my future self, because either A, I will be broke, or B, I will be sitting in a hospital with a chronic disease or diabetes or something. And that's not what we want. That's not what a successful life is all about. And to me, what's the worst part of this, right? If you're not able to exercise the self control, or if you're not able to um, use these opportunities or these daily dilemmas as a way to train the brain, is that you're actually training your brain for lack of self control. And then once you lose that self control, then that habit, it trickles from the dining table into other areas of your life, such as academia, your career, your relationships, and that's where you start losing that self control. And in order to understand non-cognitive skills even at a deeper level, so right now I kind of painted the picture at a surface level. This is what we all go through, right? But if we go down under the hood and look at non-cognitive skills from a brain perspective, we need to understand something called as executive function. Executive functions are these fundamental building blocks that really lay the foundation for all of our cognitive and non-cognitive learning. um, ex, these executive functions are in the prefrontal cortex of our part of the brain, and they're responsible for things such as the working memory. They're responsible for planning, organizing, prioritization, self control, our ability to regulate our emotions, our ability to pay attention and focus. So you can see how important how important of a role executive functions play in the overall day, in order to help us navigate through life on a daily basis, right? So to me, strong having strong executive functions in the prefrontal cortex, they really allow us to exert conscious and deliberate control over our impulsive and dangerous desires of the heart, right? So overall, to me, executive functions are the foundation of creating a successful life. If you are to have that successful life, exert those self-control measures, you need to have strong set of executive functions.
So very well articulated there. And we can just sum up that like managing your emotions as well as overcoming your fears are key to your personal, professional well being. And I was at a lecture where Bruce Lipton was saying that even your health, uh, people would say directly related to metabolism, to genes, to DNA. But he has the opinion that it is related to your mind.
Absolutely.
Your mind that determines who you are. I mean, like to your chocolate example, feel free to eat one cake a day, and that's okay if you are exercising. Like when I was playing tennis back home in Pakistan for 2-3 hours a day, I can take shakes, I can take burgers daily, yet lose weight. So it's all about the change. So if you are
Yeah,
doing an increase on one side, then you have to manage that change on the other side. Like if you want to be like a senior leader, then you have to think like a senior leader. You have to learn those skills that will take you to that senior leadership position. It's just about
absolutely.
managing expectation. But now coming to more of a fun side, Umar. I know last topic was very like, but what about sharing a fun fact about Umar with the audience?
Fun fact about me. Okay, one thing which whoever I tell this to, they find it very weird. I do not like popcorn, or I do not like French fries.
Okay.
That's definitely one interesting fact about me.
Okay, that's very interesting. French fries, especially popcorn, I can understand, but French fries is
Yeah, I know. Every time I tell people I don't eat French fries, or I say no to poutine, and they're like, "Oh my god." Like, are you serious? Like, yeah, I just don't like it.
no. Thank you so much, Umar, for taking time out today, and it was pleasure talking to you today.
Bilal, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I wish you all the best, and I love the work that you are doing. So more power to you, my friend.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone, and I'm looking forward to having you all on the next episode of SkillRanch Podcast.